Welcome Praman Narayan, founder and CEO of Roamhome, who's been a wonderful brand partner to clients from the travel sector. Praman's been building Roamhome as a vacation rental company for the past couple of years, and truly a David in the market full of Goliaths, building a really cool brand that I myself have experienced as a customer, and now I'm privileged to have as a brand partner to clients. Praman, what a pleasure to have you on the Voice of Generation Climate, Voice of Gen Z show. Great to have you here.
Hey, it's amazing to be here.
So Praman, let's start with the origin of Roamhome. What prompted you to build it? And tell us about the journey so far.
Sure. So I was trying to solve a problem that was troubling me in the past. I used to be a lawyer in the High Court of Delhi, and I remember going to Lucknow for my winter vacations, which is where I heard my mom tell my dad about how my family owned these 2 holiday homes in South Goa. Right, they're 2 apartments, and they were just like idle and vacant. So my mom's like, either sell them off or figure out a way to generate money on them. And my dad was a little apprehensive about wanting to sell them, so I chipped in. I said, okay, let me see what I can do. I flew into Goa, and what I found was that there were many services like Airbnb, Booking.com, Make My Trip, Agoda, TripAdvisor, so the Google Vacation Rentals now. But not one of these services could actually market and manage my holiday homes for me. Right? So I got my 2 units furnished, got them serviced, put them up on these portals, and I went back to Delhi and I resumed my practice. And in a short span of time, my neighbors, obviously OCIs and NRIs, started reaching out to me. They're like, hey, you're doing such a fabulous job with your units. Why don't you come and market and manage ours as well? And that's when it really struck me. I'm like, is there an opportunity to be explored? And that led me to take one of the wildest decisions of my life, made me quit law, leave Delhi, and move to Goa lock, stock, and barrel. And I started building out Roamhome essentially. So that's how I got into it.
That's a pretty cool journey you've had. But how about we backtrack even more? And
sure.
I've got to add, we know each other for a very long time now.
Yeah.
We're classmates from school, from Doon. So we've literally known each other since we were 11, 12 years old.
That's 2 decades now, right? 2003 is when we joined, yeah.
And what part, how those formative years played a role in you becoming a travel entrepreneur?
So travel was a core component of our school journey as well. I remember we would break our terms with midterms, which were essentially trekking expeditions as kids. So we were traveling as youngsters as well. And that's really it. We learned the value of immersive travel at a very, very young age.
Midterms,
exactly. Going up into the mountains, just a bunch of kids ourselves on a limited budget, planning everything by ourselves. It was very, very democratic. Yeah. And I think that had a role in me stressing focus on the immersive aspect of Roamhome as well later, the immersive travel experience.
Yeah, and I think the real homestay experience started with us at midterms, going into the mountains in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly.
And then staying in the homes of people who lived there.
Yeah.
There was no concept of hotels or anything fancy, right?
And it was beautiful, right? Just the way we interacted with them, we ate the food they made for us. They took us around, showed us the spaces, and we learned so much about the culture which you don't typically do in a hotel setup. So yeah, that definitely had some role to play in the immersiveness of the holiday home sector and what I'm trying to build.
Yeah. Because these are the influences that stack up along the way and influence how we build the businesses that we build and solve the types of problems we choose to solve, right?
True.
I think everybody who went through the doors of Doon has had to go for those midterms, whether they liked it or not.
Absolutely.
And it's later on played such a formative role in just the ability to pick up your bags and go anywhere in the world and say, okay, I can figure it out. I can find a home. And maybe I'll find a Roamhome, right? If I go to some random part of the country now.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly. So, can you tell us about, how in the last 2 years, you're building a 2-sided marketplace.
That's correct.
A bunch of supply, vacation homes coming from people who have homes in the mountains or homes in Kerala or Goa. And they're looking to, use that asset when they're not there.
Yeah.
How are you sourcing those properties and bringing them onto your platform? And then on the flip side, how are you actually finding, the vacation goer, the person who's not looking to go and stay at a hotel, but is looking for a homestay experience to come onto your platform and then make a booking? Both sides.
Sure. So I'll answer it in a demand and supply format. So India has an overabundance of demand. That's my greatest gift. I mean, there's a study published in Feb 2022 that says that there's a paucity of 2.5 million rooms in the holiday home segment. I'll just reiterate so I'm driving the
2.5 million homes.
2.5 million homes like in the holiday home segment. That's how big the glut in the market is. 68% of young travelers only want to go and stay in holiday homes. They don't want to stay in hotels any longer. And what they essentially want is like a professionally managed and curated space, right? Three things that the demand wants: good location, great design, and seamless service. Similarly, there's an overabundance of demand. There's also an overabundance of supply, which is idle, vacant, and unsold residential real estate. I was just talking to Ria before you joined the call, and she has a holiday home in Jaisalmer. Just to tell you how it's everywhere. Like a lot of people own holiday homes. A lot of builders who built residential real estate assets and destinations which are not being used. They're just idle because no one's really bought them. So my pitch can be not only to individual homeowners but also to entire real estate developers. And I use tech to connect the two. So it's very, very seamless. It's very easy. And like I said, finding demand is a piece of cake. It almost finds us entirely. We also as a company haven't spent a lot of money on supply acquisition. Right? We've built a website. We don't even do proper SEO. And about 50% of our homeowners have reached out to us on their own.
That's insane.
Exactly.
50% inbound of homeowners wanting to list their projects or their homes onto your platform.
Right. Before you called me today, I got a call from a lady who has a villa in Anjuna. And I have another 3 calls scheduled today with people who have holiday homes in the country and they're desperate for a service.
How are they finding you? Is it word of mouth or what?
No, they just go to Google and look for a vacation rental management service. And you have a bunch of players in the luxury segment. But there's no one in the affordable, like the mid-market segment. So if you have anything less than a 4 BHK without a private pool, there's literally no one who can come and help you except Roamhome. So they almost, like I said, 50% of them just find us on their own.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
that's a flywheel that feeds itself then.
Exactly,
sure.
man.
So what were the 3 terms that you said that customers are always looking for? They're looking for affordability.
No, affordability sort of varies.
Okay, what were the 3 that you mentioned?
It's location, it's design, and seamless service.
Location, design, and seamless service. Very interesting because it's like when Amazon was first being started, Bezos had said a very similar thing. He said customers are always going to want fast, cheap, right, and very many choices. So
there you go. Yeah,
lots of choices, very quickly. As cheap as possible. And those 3 are always going to continue to be the case, right? And he had bet on that in the year 2000 or so, and it played out. Like, there is no future where customers will say, no, I don't want faster, or I don't want cheaper.
Right, and Anirudh,
those are the 3 truths that Amazon got built on, and you're betting that these are the 3 truths for the vacation rental industry.
100%. The beauty of me and where I am is that not only have I faced the problem from the homeowner's perspective, which is the supply end, but also the demand end. Just think about it. Say if the 2 of us with another 2 of our batchmates went for a holiday to Goa, we would want to be closer to the beach and closer to where our hangouts are. That's your location. We would want to have an amazing design in the sense like good Wi-Fi, a nice TV perhaps, and just a comfortable space, number 2. And number 3, if it's cleaned well, which pretty much takes care of everything else, there's very little that'll stop us from having a great holiday.
Yeah, but what about a 4th and 5th? Like a personalized experience is, I think, something people really care about now. Having more of a connection with that place that they're staying at. And the 5th one, how sustainable is it? Because I think that's starting to become such an important factor now too, right? On waste, water, carbon, all of it. So where do you stack that in the order priority? What people are asking for?
I'll start from a sustainability perspective, and then I'll go to experience. These are both. So the travel industry in India is huge. It makes about 10% of our GDP, and young people, especially after mobile and internet penetration, have started traveling very extensively and aggressively. So much so that travel and tourism, which used to contribute to about 4 to 5% of India's overall GDP, now contributes to about 10% of India's GDP, and it has a significant carbon footprint. And I'll just give you a quick snapshot of the travel industry to explain how we make it more sustainable. Okay, it's a fairly easy industry to understand. There are 3 compartments. Okay, there's logistics, there's lodging, and there's consumption. Can you tell me a destination you visited recently or one that you've been meaning to go to? Anything in India?
I'm going to Varkala end of January.
Beautiful choice. Okay, so how Anirudh gets from Delhi to Varkala and back is logistics, where you stay in Varkala is lodging, and how you spend your money there is consumption. Right, and we, as a name suggests, we operate in the lodging segment, we're in the holiday home segment. And to truly understand how we make travel less intrusive, we have to juxtapose us with the hotel industry. Right? Now, those guys have significant like setting up costs and significant operating costs. I'll give you an example. Say if the two of us were to set up a hotel in Varkala, right? We would have to clear out a significant chunk, about 4 to 5 acres of a micro ecosystem just to build the hotel, right? So that's very, very intrusive. Number two, there are also significant operating costs pertaining to water, not just cooking, cleaning, and drinking water. Also like water to like fill up the bathtubs, fill up the swimming pools, landscaping your gardens. Also energy, which is like your lights which are on 24/7, your elevators which are running 24/7, your centralized heating and air conditioners. Holiday homes, the entire demand of this sector is driven on the basis of sustainability. Right? People don't want to go and stay in a place which is like destroying and destabilizing micro ecosystems.
Destructive, totally ecologically destructive.
Also, man, if you remember, like staying with Roamhome, in our addition rules, we specifically mentioned to turn off the lights when they're not in use, to be sparing with water, to turn off the air conditioners and heating when they're not like essential, and these minor ways in which we make travel very, very less intrusive.
Yeah, and nudge, right? So one is by design, you nudge the property owners to enable better and more sustainable practices.
Yeah, like
and the second is
solar panels and whatnot.
Exactly, you can make it more energy efficient. You can make it renewable energy powered.
Yeah.
You can do composting for the kitchen waste, and then you can nudge your consumer to also have more sustainable practices while they're staying there, and leave it as they found it. Right?
It's one of the reasons that I really, really love what Climbs is doing, and I was very excited about partnering with you guys, is because you create a sort of awareness that there is a there is a sort of like carbon footprint to their action of traveling and going and staying in a particular property. Right? That awareness factor is so important to me as an entrepreneur, and I'll give you another rare piece of fact. So travel and tourism makes about 10% of global GDP, but it also contributes to 8% of overall carbon emissions in the world. Right? So this industry is very it has a significant carbon footprint. And I love that you make customers aware. I think a lot of people who are in the travel industry, they don't probably think twice about the carbon footprint of their travel to that place, about where they're staying. But initiatives like this make a difference.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. And we're not doing it to guilt trip people at all.
No, it's to create awareness.
Yeah, in fact, we very openly say that, as human beings, we're never going to stop consuming. We're always going to have some sort of consumption.
Yeah.
The only changes we can make are to have more sustainable consumption. So better choices, right? Drive an electric car over an internal combustion engine car if you can.
Yeah.
Put solar on your rooftop instead of getting coal to power your house.
Go stay in a holiday home as opposed to staying in a hotel.
Exactly. Stay in a holiday home as opposed to staying in a hotel. In the future, eat alternative protein meat instead of normal meats, right?
For sure.
You can choose more sustainable choices as and when they become available.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be a residual emission, and that you can do something about. So number one, you have to be able to see it, right? If you don't even see it, if you don't see it, then you're actually hiding the environmental cost. And that's why we call that carbon footprint the true cost to the environment of a particular product.
And that's what it is,
man.
It's
just show people
and
let them decide what they want to do about it. You don't have to. But if you choose to, then you can actually contribute for a equivalent, amount of compensation with a tree planting or a carbon removal project elsewhere.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. It's a simple system. So I think the ability to show that carbon footprint of whatever we consume, just to create mindshare and awareness, super important.
Sure.
So we love that Roamhome. As a company, you've consciously chosen to do that and just show the footprint on any single home as and when somebody comes to your platform. And is even thinking about booking it. It's not a post-booking experience. It's while you're booking, you can see it.
So there's a very interesting thing that I'd like to share with you at this point is that when Climbs initially approached us, I discussed this with Rudra, who's the CTO and my co-founder, and it sparked a huge internal debate where Rudra came in and he said that, look, individual actions don't really mean anything in the larger scheme of things, and he's not completely wrong. He's like, you need institutional and government action, but at the end of the day, it's an individual who makes up the government. It's the individual who makes up the institution, right? So if you're creating awareness through a platform like Climbs, it is priceless in the greater scheme of things of putting more pressure on governments and institutions to take action.
Yeah, you've framed it really well. So if you look at how many different stakeholders there are in society, it's individuals, it's consumer brands or enterprises, it's financial institutions, then it's governments, right?
Yeah.
And the smallest unit of all of those is the individual.
Yeah.
So with that truth, like, who does the biggest responsibility lie on to do something about this giant problem of climate change?
Yeah.
And we only have a 5 to 6 year window to solve this problem. So who's one, the responsibility on? Second, who's actually going to take it on and do it, right? And three, who has the most amount of leverage?
Yeah.
And in all of those combinations, it's always the individual who not has to do it, but if they pick up the baton and say, okay, I care and I want to, the rest will actually move mountains.
Which is why
brands get on board when
we love climbs. Absolutely. And it's a very essential...
And Gen Z brands, you know, like you guys, like Tamarind Chutney, like Zingbus, like Spicta, right? Brands who actually step up and say, hey, I want to actually preemptively do this and signal to your market and say, guys, like, this is something we want to show you. Absolutely. It's up to you to decide.
Yeah.
And people are actually respecting and honoring brands a whole lot more for doing that, rather than hiding the truth, becoming a partner, right? And saying, hey, we're going to offer you a service that you want, but at the same time, we're going to do it in an environmentally responsible way. And people are actually really appreciating that and opting in and saying, we care, but thank you as a brand for like doing this too, right? Because you can never fully be a sustainable brand, but at least you can make moves in the right direction.
Right, so alternative accommodation is the fastest growing segment within the travel industry. And one of the primary drivers is the sustainability of alternative accommodations as opposed to, say, hotels. So what you're saying and what I'm trying to like tell you as well, it just falls perfectly in sync. And
yeah. So if you were to do comparative assessment, right? Vacation rentals versus the giant Goliath of hotels across the country.
Yeah.
How does that pan out? Like, what sort of consumer preferences are you seeing now? So you said, obviously, location, you know, a great experience. All of those make sense. Like, those are true for you, me, for anybody who would want to go on a vacation.
Yeah.
But when somebody has got an option in Goa to stay at a Roamhome versus a hotel by the beach, what sort of people are you seeing take the first choice and say, okay, it's going to be vacation rental home, right? And they just stick with that.
So there are two aspects to it. One is definitely the personalization and the customization which holiday homes offer, which hotels do not. Number two, they also kind of represent the ethos of a particular place where they're situated. But aside from that, sustainability is definitely a very, very crucial factor. I'll give you an example. If you go, we spent a lot of time in Goa, right? If you go and stay in any of the hotels, you'll notice that a lot of them are on the beaches, right? So they've literally hacked down the barricade of greenery along the coastal belt to set up these hotels. And now with climate change, with the Arabian Sea heating up, the frequency of cyclones in Goa has tremendously increased, right? And now because there is no green belt, right, protecting the coastal belt, and Goa is primarily agrarian in nature. So because there's no green like barricade protecting the coast from these cyclones, because people went and decided to set up hotels there, it's wreaking havoc on the state. So sustainability, I mean, of course, personalization, customization is very, very crucial, which makes holiday homes very different to hotels. Also the additional like amenities, facilities, and the cheaper price, all of that is like a perfect like thing to drive people away from hotels into holiday homes. But sustainability is very, very crucial in spearheading and taking holiday homes and making it the fastest growing segment within the travel industry. Pretty much.
I'm sure it's the fastest growing segment for sure. In fact, I saw a statistic by you yesterday that in the travel wave that's happening now, right? Like the resurgence after two years of COVID, so much pent up demand and like energy that people have to just go places, right? Travel overall is booming, but for Roamhome, I think there's been an 80% bump, right? In
8.8%, man, that's increase in the revenue from December 21 to December 22. And what I've been trying to tell people is that it's not like, people have been saying revenge travel for a while. This is not revenge travel. This is just how Indians travel today.
Yeah.
That's how it makes up 10% of our GDP, right? Indians spend as much on travel as a fully developed nation. So we have a very robust domestic travel market fueled almost entirely by young people. And for young people, sustainability is very, very crucial, which is one of the many reasons why about 68% of them want to go and stay in holiday homes and never go and stay in hotels.
What are the other traits that they have? So you're saying it's typically the young people who are more inclined to travel domestically, and then they're looking for sustainable choices in that travel. But what other traits are common enough that you have seen within them?
So the target audience, if that's what you're asking me, is 25 to 45 years old.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. Like, they're traveling in bigger groups, so one room doesn't suffice. They want to be in like 2 rooms. Also, even if they have an option to choose between a studio apartment and a hotel room, which is priced similarly, they almost always end up choosing the studio apartment as opposed to the hotel room, because hotels are traditional, they're boring, they lack character, they lack personalization.
Yeah. Commoditized. They're completely like commoditized boxes, right? Earlier you just paid for the trust, the name, that like that brand would evoke a certain standard of cleanliness and predictability. But I think that's kind of become passé, and now you want a little bit more of a human touch to it.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I think also customers are very, very cognizant of the fact that hotels at some level sort of conflate unnecessary opulence with good service. Wherein even on the demand side, like someone who's going and staying in a hotel, right, they won't think twice about like flaring up the ACs, filling up the bathtubs, just stuff like that. It's, for them, it's a mindset is that I've spent X amount.
I've spent it, so let me get full paisa vasool, right?
As much vasooli as I possibly can. But with holiday homes, they're responsible. Also, hotels are built in a way where they want you to have breakfast, lunch, dinner, spend all your money within their confines. Holiday homes are built more on the premise of immersive travel. Like, they won't give you your meals.
That's an interesting insight. I had never thought of it that way before.
Yeah.
That when you're booking a room to stay in a hotel, you're actually just going into that mindset of consume everything.
Yeah.
Because you're driven by FOMO.
Yeah.
Right? In any hotel, you're just like, I want it all. I want to eat everything in the buffet. I want to like use all the energy. not exactly in the same line, but you don't think about like putting off your AC when you're leaving the hotel room, right?
There you go. And you also like
and when you're showering, you take an obnoxiously long shower.
Yeah.
So I think it's all FOMO driven, which leads to overconsumption by the very psychology of staying in a hotel. But you're right, with every vacation home that I've gone to, it's actually been minimal consumption.
Yeah.
I don't know where that exactly comes from.
It comes because you sort of treat it like a home. You know? It's just built in that way.
And you know that there's an owner to that home too, and you somehow have a little bit of I got to take care of this home for them, and I would live in this home as I would live in my own home.
Exactly, that's the whole notion, right? A home away from home. That's what holiday homes try and create. That's the environment they try and create, and it just pans out wonderfully. Like, people making sustainable choices or caring even the slightest hoot about sustainability want to go and stay in holiday homes, and they don't want to go and stay in hotels any longer. So that's a core differentiator. Yeah.
Very interesting. So I honestly respect your style of sourcing these homes quite a lot. I want to dive a little bit into that.
Sure.
So you said that, you get a lot of inbound and, people call you because they Google search and they want to list their home on a platform.
Yeah.
But how do you actually bring them onto your platform? Because you're always on the road. So what do you do?
Sure.
How do you...
So I'm also constantly on the hunt for homes because my business is pretty much like supply driven. Like, I know there's an overabundance of demand. I also know there's an overabundance of supply. But Roamhome, what it aims to do is find this supply and convert it into holiday homes, right? So it's our entire business is driven from a supply-oriented perspective. And what we do is once we find a home, you want to know how we find the homes or what we do once we find the home?
Yeah. Run me through it because you're always on the road going and actually meeting these people, right? Who have homes to put onto the platform. Yeah. It's a very relationship building kind of a model that you have. It's not not all behind a screen. It's one-on-one.
Trust is very, very crucial to doing business in India. The Tatas have already taught us that many decades ago. And especially when someone is giving off their home, right? They're very careful about who they're giving it to. Right? So it's important for us as a team to send like-minded people to go and meet the homeowner, give them the pitch, explain to them how they value what the home's all about, and how we want to try and send the kind of people who appreciate the home. Like you said, when you go and you travel, you're a little sustainable in the way you're using the home, right? Yeah. Now, if someone turns up to a home and starts treating it like a hotel, that's when the problems start.
Yeah.
So I've told you what the demand wants. I'll tell you what the supply wants. They want a lot of bookings, but only of good quality guests, and they want transparency in the booking amounts. Yeah. They want to know that the amount the guest is paying is the amount which is finally reaching their bank account as well. So those are the crucial components on which the supply thrives. And so
I think that one about the homeowner having a bit of due diligence and knowing who's staying in my house
Yeah.
And then being able to say, okay, this one can, this one can't, very important. It's becoming more of a pattern now.
Sure.
There's a house I go and stay in quite regularly in Landover. And, like I've gone there 4 times now.
Roamhome has lovely homes in Landau, by the way.
I will definitely hit you up for it.
Check them out.
But like this house is, it's incredible. And like in Landau, you really can't build new homes, right? So there's very few.
That's correct.
The people who own it and maintain it literally have like a very small list of people that they're allowed to come onto this,
right,
and stay at this place. And even when it's not booked out, they're not giving it out to anybody else.
Right.
And so I asked them. I said, "Aren't you affecting your own business by being so like picky and choosy? You're basically keeping it to like, you know, your school alumni and then like your college or whatever alumni." And they were like, "Yeah, like we may lose business, but at least we'll maintain our house." Right?
Exactly, and it's important to people when they're using it themselves, right?
Yeah.
Other people come and trash the home and don't like respect it. We have had other companies in India provide like a similar service, especially in the budget domain.
Yeah.
They would send in like 14, 15 people into a 2-bedroom apartment.
And then walk out with TVs and stuff.
And they would just like, I don't know how filtered I'm supposed to be here, but they would leave like condoms, cigarette stubs on the ground.
Yeah.
Just go there for like a dirty weekend, and you don't want those kind of people coming and staying in your home. It kills not only your own real estate value, but also of the entire neighborhood. Yeah. So you don't want to. No homeowner wants to tie up with
Destruction by association. Just because you're in the same neighborhood, you take a hit.
Right. So, like I said, trust and reliability is very, very important to the supply. They got to be knowing who they're working with. And I try and I meet as many of them as I can. I literally drive all across the country once we figure out a home or where we know that there are a lot of homes. And I try and I meet as many homeowners myself, explain to them that, look, I've suffered from the very problem that you're going through right now. And I know exactly what all is important to you. And I list out what all is important to them. Like, see, I know what you want and I'll give it to you. And then they spend an evening with me, they spend like an afternoon with me, and then they become comfortable. And just working from that point onward becomes much simpler.
So while you're building this out, obviously the inevitable question comes up, right? Why you and not the other bigger, far larger vacation rental business that we should not be booking from, but has been around a lot longer?
Yeah.
Why Roamhome and not them?
So like
a selection of properties, of course.
So
always
Roamhome is the only company that works in the mid-market segment.
Yeah.
None of them do. Like, for instance, if you have like an apartment or a smaller 2 BHK, 3 BHK, and it doesn't have a private pool, you pretty much can't go to the other players in the market. Also, those guys aren't using technology at all. We're a tech-enabled business, and we're built to scale, which is why we operate in the market segment that we do. Right? So that's where the difference lies. I mean, a 2 BHK in Landor, like a 2 BHK villa, or 3 BHK villa in Landor would be a much better fit for Roamhome and his clientele, unless you throw in a private pool.
Got
a heated pool, and if you're pricing it like 50, 60, 70,000 bucks a night, then it doesn't fall within like our area of expertise. But anything under like 30,000, 20,000 bucks a night is where Roamhome comes into play, and that's where the abundance of supply also really is.
Yeah, definitely. How are you seeing the next couple of years play out in terms of travel? So you said Indians are starting to travel far more domestically.
Yeah.
Spending a lot more. Actually, not
a lot of money.
We've always been spending a lot.
Yeah.
It just feels like we're spending a lot more now compared to the COVID years, right? But it's going to continue to grow where people are becoming more free with spending on themselves. Like you look at dining, you go to a random place in Delhi on a Monday, any place, it's fully booked out.
There you go.
Right?
It's got to do with rising incomes of the middle class.
Yeah.
And there's a strong element to status signaling in it. Like I said right at the beginning. People want to go, they don't just want to go to Himachal and come back. They want to go to Himachal, find themselves, post a picture about them finding themselves, and then come back and post about it all over social media. So it's very status driven. And
Yeah, CNBC scene. That's always been a big part of the Indian DNA, right? Especially North Indian DNA.
Yeah, we're a very status driven society.
Yeah, for sure. So you think spending on travel is going to continue to only grow?
It's going to continue to grow. People, like I said, I've been reiterating throughout, they're going to start spending more on sustainable means of travel.
Yeah.
Like holiday homes, it is the fastest growing segment for a particular reason. And they're going away from very commercial like places like Shimla, Manali, and going and exploring more offbeat destinations. And technology from the business perspective will have I must tell you this, the travel lodging is one of the most tech-averse sectors in the world, even behind like agriculture and construction. Right? The way
Why is that?
it's just there's been no innovation in this sector. Like the way it used to run, say, 50, 60, 70, 100 years ago is the way it still runs today. The SOPs and just people doing everything every day. It's very, very inefficient, and
that's why inefficiency breeds opportunity for disruption. Right?
Absolutely. So our tech will help us become very, very hyper operationally efficient, and it'll help us compete in a price sensitive market. So that's what we're looking at. Yeah.
For sure. And if you can bring like aggregated, great quality, personalized supply.
Yeah.
With the rising incomes of, so many Indians who are looking for more sustainable choices.
Yeah.
That's a match made in heaven.
Absolutely is.
Right?
So
you're actually opening up parts of the country that people would not even think about traveling to otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. The Northeast is the largest growing, fastest growing like travel market in the country. It's still very small for Roamhome to like go and expand itself completely, but it just tells you like how much Indians want to go and like explore new places now.
What all pockets are you in right now around the country?
We're in 10 states across the country. We're in Ladakh, Himachal, Uttarakhand, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Goa, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka. We have a very sizable presence, and Sikkim.
Wow, that's amazing. So, as you're building this out, what are the biggest problems that you're currently facing that need to be solved and you're looking for help with? Would it be capital that solves the problem? Would it be some sort of a partner, a strategic partner that solves that problem? Is it a demand problem, not enough? You're saying you have supply, you have demand growing. So you have tech is enabling that marketplace.
It's pretty much
what are the problems that need to be solved?
It's probably only capital. We have everything else. We also have a solid network as a company now, and people know about us.
So now you're in a position where you're ready to scale, and it's a capital.
Exactly, we're in the growth phase now.
The more you can scale it up.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Go to 4,000 homes, 6,000 homes, 8,000 homes. That's the dream.
Yeah, and this is the definition of a network marketplace.
100%. Indirect network effects are phenomenal in this space.
Absolutely. Going forward, are there any other nudges that you think you can actually bring in to your consumer base to live more sustainably too? And I only ask this because, while it's an individual's responsibility or their decision if they want to do something for climate, we have noticed that brands taking on that mantle, brands like yourself taking on that mantle and actually being champions and saying, hey, by the way, these are all the choices you have, and hey, by the way, why don't you do this? That nudge factor brought on by the brands we buy from, brought on by the enterprises we work at, is very, very, very powerful. And if enough of that happens, that's a movement, right? That's a revolution. Then we have a shot at a cleaner, safer, better, fairer future.
No, that's such an interesting question. I think definitely from the demand side, which is the people who come and travel, we sort of want them to stop going and staying in hotels and come and stay in holiday homes only. Like hotels, it just doesn't make sense.
No hotels. Cancel all hotels.
Exactly, man. It just doesn't make sense. And as well as from the supply end, we keep encouraging them to set up solar panels, be asset light in the way they're furnishing their place, and small things like that. They have a significant impact in the bigger scheme of things. Airbnb, if you look at their data, has significantly saved a lot of resources by providing alternative accommodation options to, say, travelers who would otherwise stay in hotels. So same principle. That's really it.
Yeah, there's really no dearth of it. One place you can start by saying, okay, no hotels, and then vacation rental homes are already more sustainable. Then you can go deeper into offering choices like clients and just being a consumer-facing choice.
Yeah.
But then the options beyond, right? Hey, if you're coming to stay over here, here's an electric mobility-based option, right? Like a electric mobility-based travel partner that'll actually help you come here. Right, and then that kind of a flywheel actually has no limit then too, because then you're doing downstream and upstream enablement of sustainable choices.
That's I think that's an idea. That's a very interesting idea.
That's a future. That's a future we are actually working toward now, because with clients, what we have noticed is we have 15 consumer brand partners today who all offer different sorts of products: personal care products, fashion products, vacation rentals, bus rides, flights, and each of them is trying to become more sustainable in their own right.
Yeah.
The sum of all of that is actually a full day life for a person.
Yeah.
Right? So why don't they get plugged in at the right time to enable, like, what your core area is just the vacation, getting there, the food, etc. is not your priority, right? So how about sustainable brands actually feed the flywheel of other sustainable brands?
That's a beautiful, beautiful thought, man. If people who are already so big about sustainability could be in a sustainable, like I said, logistics, if the logistics could be more sustainable, and they could be on an environmental friendly bus from their city to wherever our homes are, that's a win-win. Also, if you can provide them with like immersive travel, like I was talking about, we want them to go out, mingle with the locals, attempt all sorts of like local experiences and eat the local food, this and that. If they had like electric like mobility options which they could just like jump on top of and go and explore the place, it would be fabulous.
Yeah, and I think that is very much in our future for sure too. And I think that's going to lead to more of a differentiation for the homestay experience, right? Which is far more personalized, far more in tune with the planet.
Yeah.
Right? You should be able to enjoy our planet while staying in tune with our planet.
Absolutely, man. Sustainable development, shared prosperity. It's
exactly.
That's the way of the future. Yeah.
Yeah. So assuming that there's another Praman out there looking to start a business, and so, man, there's so many problems in the travel space. I want to go after it and make some change happen, create better travel experiences. What would you advise that person? Assuming you were just starting out now, and from whatever you've learned, what would you advise that person to the next Praman out there?
I would ask them to focus on the bottom line, because that's literally been the hardest part about building this business for me. We got hit by COVID 6 months into like starting off, right? And so unit economics are very, very crucial. Number two, do focus on something like sustainability, right? Because that's where the young travelers want to go. Like I said, our entire travel domestic market is pretty much fueled by young people. It's very, very robust, and they care a lot about sustainability. So keep the bigger picture as well as your unit economics.
This ties in really well with one of our core ethoses, and actually something that Fireside Ventures says really well, PPP. So they have a value for good thesis that they've put out. And in it, it's all around people, planet, profit.
There you go.
So if you don't have one of those three, you don't have a business of the future. Right? Without people, what's the point of doing it anyway?
Yeah.
Without a planet, honestly, it's just it's an extractive business.
Yeah.
But without profit, it's not a business that will sustain itself into the future, right? Yeah. So incentives have to be defined for everybody who's building it.
Yeah.
And I think the combination of those three is really, it should have always been the model of how to do business. Some championed it and some made it part of their DNA early on. Some are doing it now.
Yeah.
We think it's definitely the only way to do business now. In fact, sustainability is a license to be in the marketplace. If you don't have it in your DNA, you are not going to be around for too long, because consumers will kick you out, investors will kick you out.
100%.
Right? The planet will rid you. The planet itself will not allow for unsustainable businesses. So this PPP model that I think you guys have taken on really early on, extremely cool. Are there any brands that you admire in India or internationally that you've kind of learned from and are inspired by?
On what fronts? On the economics front? On the
the PPP front. The combination, or that you're emulating Roamhome on.
I'll have to give that a thought. So nothing.
Okay, whenever you do, text me about it, because I think we for example, I'm inspired by Patagonia a lot.
Right.
As a fashion brand, they always made planet their front and center.
Right.
And then came all the rest, but they built a very profitable business out of it too. That's why they ended up reaching so many people globally. Right? That combination is, I think, the sweet spot for how to really create generational companies.
Right.
And I'm hoping and betting that Roamhome will be one of them too.
Inshallah. Fingers crossed, man. Hoping for that.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Praman Narayan. Wonderful conversation with you today. This is yet another episode of The Voice of Gen Z, and it should be coming out soon.
I look forward.
Thank you.